The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
All right, it's episode number 80, and it is 137 days till the man burns as of this recording. As many of you may have heard, Larry Harvey has been hospitalized after a massive stroke, and as of this recording, at least, remains in critical condition. Our hearts and thoughts are, of course, with him and his family during this very, very difficult time. I spend a not insignificant amount of time thinking about leadership and community building, to some extent because I do this show, to some extent because of various other projects that I'm involved in, and from observing people like Larry Harvey and how he works and operates. Developing and honing a thing that's bigger than you is not too unlike raising a child, I might imagine. You want it to succeed, you want it to grow, you want it to flourish long after you've left this particular plane of existence. I hope to someday experience what that feels like, to have helped facilitate, even in some tiny way, the physical and spiritual growth of an organism. And in this case, the organism is an international community that has helped facilitate the spiritual and personal growth of so many of us across the globe. Larry lays in a hospital bed today in critical condition with the knowledge that he has touched the lives of tens of thousands of people across the globe. On April 4th through the 8th, just one example, of this year, of 2018, just a few days before his stroke, all the way over on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, so very far from Black Rock Desert, the 5th annual European Leadership Summit was held. And it was a gathering of regional contacts and community builders and artists and BM.org staff for a weekend of learning and personal development and creative collaboration. You know, when people say shit like Burning Man's over, I kind of like smile and battle the urge to tell them about regionals and events and leadership summits and all the other ways that this community is spreading throughout the world. I fight the desire to tell them that this little thing in the desert is just one part of this thing of ours, that the thing in the desert may soon actually be the smallest aspect of Burning Man. That many half-jokingly refer to it as the Gerlach Regional. Fun little connection I wanted to share with you, by the way. Christopher Breedlove, the Burners Without Borders chief in the Burning Man office, who was our guest on episode number 75, spoke at the European Leadership Summit and was tasked with introducing the next speaker, who it turns out was Troy Swanson, who was our guest on episode number 68. There's so many of these little connections that happen. And if I experience these on a regular basis, where people come and share with me some important thing they learned or some connection that they made through what we do with this show, I can only begin to wrap my brain around how often that has happened for Larry, and how magical that must feel and fulfilling that must be. Rest well, Larry. The work that you've done has made all of this possible. Whatever will be, and I know he'd want us to keep the fire burning. So today's interview subject is actually a perfect example of one of the many, many lives that Burning Man community has touched. Major Tom Varden, the lead artist behind the Black Rock Observatory, was last our guest on this show all the way back on episode number 16. The experience of recording that interview was significant for me personally because it was our first show that took place outside of San Diego, the place that Burner Podcast is based out of, but not confined to. So I actually had to drive and go on a little road trip all the way up to the Mojave. You should go back and listen to that one. I mean, I didn't actually listen to it, but you should. I can only guess how ranty my opening must have been. That's what makes me cringe the most when I listen to older episodes on accident. Anyway, point being, go back and listen to that one if you want to know the backstory of how the Black Rock Observatory came together, the involvement of the Desert Wizards of Mars, and how the legendary Greg Fleischman ended up designing the domes. So go back and listen to episode number 16 to get sort of all the backdrop on this. Or you can visit blackrockobservatory.com and click around for a while listening to this interview. So I caught up with Tom in Studio City over the weekend, and we kind of picked up where we left off. And I'd been following Tom's adventures via social media, and we had a drink together at the Burn a couple of years ago. And I wanted to see where this journey had taken him officially. Tom's still like an excited little kid when it comes to this stuff, and I'm certain that that's what keeps him continue to geek out about it, and continues to help other people continue to geek out about what he's doing. Today's chat is less about the background of the project, obviously, because we did that already, and more about all the things that have come from it after one's been doing it for a while. We get to learn about how Tom ended up going to work for the Griffith Observatory as a direct result of his work with Black Rock Observatory, which, by the way, side note, I feel like such a dork for like having like brain spaced on the word Griffith Observatory. We recorded on a Sunday, so I think that happened a couple of times, just total brain spacies. It's a conversation about space stuff, so I was spaced out or something. Tom's journey, by the way, is proof that one's success at Burning Man can absolutely translate to one's success out in the default world. We talk on the topic of 1%ers at Burning Man somehow, and then like Paris Hilton comes up somehow, and then that leads into talking about passion and art projects somehow. We don't really have an agenda. It's just a couple of old friends catching up and recording the conversation in order to share it with thousands of people. That's normal, right? Stay tuned after the conversation with Tom for a very space travel-y set from Treavor Moontribe of the Moontribe Collective. Camp Walter comes up during the conversation, so I reached out to Andy over at Camp Walter to see if he had any recommendations for today's closing set. And of course there would be some synchronicity, obviously. So the set that you'll be hearing will be from the Walter in Space and Walter in Space with Moontribe and Friends event, the party that was held at Calliope on opening Monday night from Burning Man 2017. Duh, obviously. Today's episode is entitled Beyond the Observatory. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the lights. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There were sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and it felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, because there ain't no one for to give you no name.
actually attended my first burn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the episode number 1 was Brady Mahaney, and Brady is a regional contact in San Diego, and he's been one of the community leaders there, like leading a lot from behind and coordinating and organizing. He was doing like the local meetups and involved with Utopia and all this kind of stuff, right? So he's been there for every step of the San Diego community development. And he came from Austin. Not every step. I mean, he came in there and there was stuff happening. So, but he's been involved for quite some time. So that was episode number 1, and we recorded the interview. And then I went to my first burn.
Nice.
And then I recorded the intro. And then that's when the episode was released.
Had you been to Utopia?
Utopia was what sucked me in.
Nice.
That was like that was the event that at the end of the weekend I turned around and like screamed at the top of my lungs, like, where the fuck have you people been my whole life?
Yeah. Sweet.
But then I got obsessed with trying to figure out how to tell the story of this community, and then that's when I recorded the first interview, and then after my first burn, released the first episode.
That's awesome.
So
my first event was LA Decompression.
Yeah, the LA Decom is the one that's on a street.
It's in a park in downtown LA.
It's like a one-day event, right?
Yeah. Well, if you build something, you can camp the first night. You know, but it's pretty much, it's publicly, it's one evening, and they just took a break from it because the venue. Let me get that. Yeah. The venue.
The venue.
Yeah, they just took a break from doing decompression because the venue. I think it's LA. What's it called? Oh my gosh!
I thought yes.
I'm forgetting the name of the park, but it's LA. It's like LA National Park. It's right down the street from Philippe's, the place that invented the French dip.
Yeah.
But it's a one night event, but they just completed a renovation on it, and so we went, I think, 2 years without an LA Decom. But LA Decom was what did it for me.
There was the last 2 years there hasn't been an LA Decom?
Well, this year there was, but I think the previous 1 or 2 years there was not, because there was just no venue to have it. There was sort of an impromptu event at a club to kind of take the place, but we didn't have a proper decom for a minute.
You guys have like such a tiny regional for such a large community.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that, especially after attending Utopia.
Yeah.
And hearing about other regionals. I mean, we have a vast community here. I'd like to say that maybe it's just more segmented and like independent.
I mean, vast is an understatement for
Seriously.
like the LA burn community.
Yeah, we have like 5 or 6 regionals, I think. 5 or 6 regional contacts.
Yeah.
It's a very, very large community. And I think can't really get into terrible specifics about it, but I think the antidote for us being segmented is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, let's just say that the LA community is looking, oh man, I wish I could say more. The LA community is just looking towards creating a space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I don't know what can and can't be said, but I've heard some rumblings about like looking at like the San Diego model to some extent, like because we have Collab in San Diego. And
yes.
Putting together like a more like connected board to work on the community. Yeah, because in LA, and this is my observation as a non-Los Angelino.
Sure.
But I feel like In LA, it's been a little bit harder to bring the community together. One, because LA is just so fucking big.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is geography. Where
Yeah.
it's one of the largest counties in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh no, it's like I can tell you this as a San Diegan, like one of the running jokes is don't ask somebody in Los Angeles for directions. They will not know where anything is. Like you don't know where anything is outside of your own little neighborhood because you never leave. Because like it takes like an hour and a half to get from one end of the city to the other end.
Yeah, I know at one point, but I think before Shanghai blew up, it was the largest city by area in the world.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
But then like I think in addition to that, it's the film industry here. So like everything that comes out of LA is like grand production value. And there's a lot of artists working on insane projects out here already.
Sure.
So like you come to San Diego and you meet another weirdo, you're like, oh God, there's another weirdo.
Sure.
Like, let's all connect. Let's all hide under the, an umbrella together. In LA though, everywhere you go is filled with artists and weirdos. So they're like, I'll see you next weekend.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that, man, because I grew up in this very small town where it was exactly like that. Not that San Diego is such a small town, but I grew up in a real small
town. It's like a wide small town.
Sure, yeah. It's still, kept its charm and freakiness. I love it. But it's seriously one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yeah, it's easy. Everything's easy in San Diego.
Oh my God, I love San Diego so much. But like I grew up in a town where it was like that for sure. Like you just cling, to your crew. And here there are so many crews.
Yeah.
It's important for us to remember to intermingle, It's important for us to learn to share because I grew up in the high desert. Not grew up, sorry. For the past 20 years, I've been in the high desert, which is 35 miles north of here, and it's in the middle. It's still in LA County. And I was a concert promoter for a while, and I was living in Atlanta, which is a town of 4.5 million people. For the first 20 years of my life, I met like 100 bands. And when I moved to the middle of the desert, I met like 350 bands in like 3 years. Like it was ridiculous. Yeah. Like there are so many networks here that maybe it is detrimental to the idea that we all band together.
Yeah. It can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think in addition to that, there's so many different cultures of burners in LA as well. Like you have like the different camps that are like vast camps. They have large groupings, so they only hang out with their own camp.
Sure.
And that's pretty much like their regional. They have kind of their own decoms, if you will. And then I think in addition to that, you have like the fashion burner community, like in LA, I
don't know what you're talking about.
Like the crew, like there's like the population influx that shows up on that last weekend at Burning Man.
Yeah,
that's like there just for that, but they're not necessarily like they don't have the bandwidth or interest to be involved in the community year round. So yeah, it's a hard community to wrangle in LA.
Acculturation, man.
Yeah. How do we do that?
Oh man. We invite.
How do I get Paris Hilton in here?
We invite them. We invite them to our awesome art projects. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we invite them into our camps, and we live with them and lead by example.
I don't know. What if like their camp is way cleaner and has like direct service, and you fly in on a private jet?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't blame anyone for having that experience. Like, yeah. I gotta admit, I got invited to a really amazing, let's just do this.
Yeah, bring it.
I got invited to a really amazing camp that was run by Autodesk. Mm-hmm. Autodesk, not trying to give a shout out or anything, but they're very generous. And so when we first started designing the domes for the Black Rock Observatory, basically they offered us any software that we wanted. they essentially gave us
keys to the kingdom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And whenever anyone in the crew would be like, hey, I need this one program, they'd be like, no, just get this suite.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like $7,000, but just take it anyway. They're very kind, and they are wonderful, very giving, very generous burners. A lot of Autodesk. And they support artists. Either way. They made Moonbase Octo, which is like a 60 or 80 foot geodesic dome painted to look like the moon.
Wow.
And
on the outside or the inside?
On the outside.
Okay.
And on the way in, I was basically served the most amazing meal I've probably ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
In Black Rock City.
Yeah.
So, although I could never afford to camp with these folks, I can tell you for sure that their affluence has nothing to do with their getting it. Mm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, although I think that Avenue K is an interesting subject, I can certainly tell you it's muddy. It's not as simple as everyone thinks it is. There's a lot of people out there. If you think about the Renaissance, it was a time when patrons of the arts were responsible for making all the arts happen.
Yeah. We wouldn't have the Renaissance if it wasn't for the Medici.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I don't have expectations that that's what's happening again. But I do know that there are, I do know for sure that there are people out there doing a lot, working their asses off and getting sold short because they throw down financially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That said, I don't know, get dirty.
Yeah, no, it's
get dirty. Yeah. Get dirty. I feel like that's an important, get uncomfortable. I think that's an important part of the experience.
I love that you just told that story, because I've been hoping to get into that subject.
Oh yeah.
For a long time. Yeah. And the right avenue hadn't quite come up. But yeah, it's true. We, for example, a couple of years ago, we camped with Playground, Carl Cox's camp.
Nice.
He brings out this ridiculous stage that he basically pays for, and
how was the camp experience?
So we were camped, what do you call it? Villaged together with them. Cause we were with Perky Parts and Playground, and Perky Parts came together and they were the Playground. So the interesting thing is, and I think some of the experience that I may have had there, which is some of the experience that I've observed other people have, not just at Burning Man, mind you, this is a common thing I'm about to describe, where you have the people who are at the leadership and visionary levels of these communities, let's just call them. And a community, let's say the community that we're describing could be the Medici or the company you're referencing, or lots of these other camps that are, potentially on K Street, right? You have 100 camp members. Right. Within that camp, you have the people who had the vision and brought this thing together, and perhaps many of them were financially successful and well off, et cetera, et cetera. And with them came a friend and another friend of a friend, another friend of a friend.
Sure.
And people will have interactions with a friend of a friend from that camp. And then they'll assume that the personality of that entire 100% camp is that one person because of that interaction they had with that friend. So,
sure. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. So we'll joke with the Paris Hilton's an easy joke to make, just because like she's made that name for herself. That's her brand. Is that the fashionable, I'm traveling the world, I'm seeing all the cool shit thing, right? So like we'll use that as like we can use that as a quick jump to that explanation. But she's like just one person who camps with whatever the camp is. I don't know the rest of their story.
Yeah, no kidding.
And it's interesting. Like, how do you police that?
What is she,
like,
Robot Heart?
Right. Like, do you? I don't know. Like, do you walk around to every single camp member and demand that every single person, like you were describing, get it? There's no way to do that.
Right. Oh man, I'm with you there. But
I mean, ultimately, like I think ideally we're all trying to do the same thing, right? We're trying to get people out there and hopefully they have an epiphany.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I mean, it definitely changed my life forever. Made my dreams come true. Yeah, I guess it's a narrative that lasts more than 1 year, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you never know where different people end up. The experience that I had a couple years ago on the Wonderlust Arcade, which was a project that was under the man. I forget which year. I'm bad with numbers.
I think that was 2 years ago. Carnival of Mirrors, right?
Possibly. Yeah, I think that was. You're right. 2015? Yeah, okay. And I just remember like it was 3 a.m. and we're building this cage structure on the trailer that's connected to like the truck that we're going to be taking the whole project out from San Diego, right? And we're putting these things together because we don't have the budget to go out and rent a more expensive truck. So we had to build a cage around the art piece in order to get it out there. So it's like 3 a.m. and we're swinging hammers, bringing this thing together. And I remember I have this moment where I look to my right and I look to my left, and I now have these like deep bonds with these people, with these other burners who worked on this project, who I may not have had any other reason to meet.
Sure.
Had I not connected with them on this project. They're like in different career paths, different age groups, all this kind of stuff. We listen to different music.
Yeah.
But that limitation forced us to sweat under the sun together and swing hammers and end up working on this thing at 3 a.m. And it brought together this connection, this human connection that may not have existed had we not been cornered into it because we couldn't afford it. Now I always ask myself, if I had the money, I would have probably just thrown money at that problem.
Oh, wow.
But I now have these like lifelong connections with people.
Oh my God. You got me right in the heart in that one, man.
That's a thing to consider. Like everybody's going about their journey their own ways. Like,
so right after I came up with the idea for Black Rock Observatory, I tend to just torture myself mentally. And I was like, oh my God, is this just my excuse for trying to get everyone to make a big telescope that I can look through? And the next, I felt like Sisyphus, man. I was like, the next thing I have to do is make the money. I don't have it.
Yeah.
Like got to spend way over 100,000 on this thing, and I have made way less than 100,000 on this thing. So it was definitely those bonds that I've made with not only my crew but just supporters who come and look through the telescope has absolutely been the most important thing about this project for me, and I didn't foresee that.
Yeah.
There are just 55-gallon drums of blood, sweat, and tears out there, that my crew has given to this project. Traveled to China and Mexico and Colorado and Oregon and yeah, they are soldiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost becomes like after you work on a project long enough, the project itself almost becomes secondary. It's the family that grew out of it.
Yeah, in fact, I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to come up with some other stuff and give it to them just so that we can keep this thing going. You know, like I want to put like a meter telescope on a truck with a dome so that we can hit every state instead of just the West, like.
Tell me that. So the last time that we left off the interview, or the last time we spoke, the last time we recorded a conversation.
Sure.
We've spoken since.
Nice.
I want to say it was like the second year that you were out there. Mm-hmm. And so you had come out to Utopia, and I saw like in the following year after that second year, you actually ended up going to work for the observatory, an observatory here in LA.
Yeah, I got really lucky. Forgive me if I told this story on the last podcast.
No, please tell it again.
So we took the telescope to Ignite Fireflow Conference, who's run by Michael Tupa Engel. It's in Joshua Tree, and it's really, really a great festival that's very intentional. It's more about workshops and classes than about sort of dancing and reverie. And Tupa, the organizer, basically sent someone over to relieve me from working on the telescope. And she was a museum guide from Griffith Observatory. Now, Griffith Observatory it's in Los Angeles. It sits in Griffith Park. It's the most popular public observatory in the world. And she's like, "Hey, we're hiring telescope operators." And I'm like, "I operate telescopes." She's like, "You should apply." And so I did. And I go through this interview process.
And may I, I'm sorry to ask.
No, go ahead.
Prior to getting involved with the Black Rock Observatory, am I incorrect in remembering? I'm trying to remember like sort of like some of the stuff that we talked about last time. Like how much experience you actually had working with telescopes.
Well, I've been an amateur, since, I started, they let me out of class in 4th grade to record a total solar eclipse in my hometown. So fooled around with for 20 years at that point.
Right.
But
and you're a professional photographer. So like
that helps. That helps a lot.
Right.
Because they're really just big lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I go in for the interview. I convince my direct report that I know what I'm talking about. And then I go in for the second interview, and the second interview is with Dr. David Reitzel. And Dr. David Reitzel is a 17-year burner.
Oh, wow.
And he's wearing a bow tie with little tiny Mars rover art cars on them. I'm sorry, Mars rovers on them. I'm sorry.
Not the art car.
You're right. And I'm like, hey, me and my friends built the Mars rover art car. Oops, I can't believe I made that mistake. But he's got little curiosities on his tie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we built a 1.5 times replica of that. And he's like, are you part of the Desert Wizards of Mars, the people who did that? And I'm like, and I kind of thought maybe he knew I was. And so yeah, we spent a fair amount of my interview talking about the observatory Black Rock Observatory, and his experience at Burning Man. And so I won't say that's why I got the job. If I hadn't been qualified, I wouldn't have gotten it. But
it was a contributing factor.
It did not hurt at all.
Yeah.
It did not hurt at all.
Because the connection that I'm making is like I loved seeing that development, because this was your like childhood dream. And you found a way to turn it into an art project, and then it swung back into default world and got you into that job.
Man, absolutely. Like
that's like if I was like, my daydream was to be an actor, and I made like a theater art car, and then I came back to default world, and then like George Clooney's like, hey, you're going to be in this movie.
No, that's exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I used to think. I suck at math so bad, Arash.
Yeah, no. Oh God, don't get me started.
Okay. So here's the thing. Like, once upon a time, I thought, hey, I could really be an astronomer. I could really be an astrophysicist. I could really be an observer. But I suck at math. And then I found the one city in the whole world that was fucking crazy enough to let me run an observatory.
Yeah.
And then I got to take that observatory everywhere else. Yeah. And then, because I did that, I got a job at the world's greatest public observatory.
That's incredible. That's like a Burning Man dream story.
Dude, I'm the luckiest guy in the whole universe, I'm telling you. Oh, and yesterday, I finished docent training at Mount Wilson Observatory, the observatory that...
Oh, wow.
So hopefully I'll be running tours there here soon and running telescopes. But Mount Wilson is where Edwin Hubble discovered galaxies and universal expansion. And so, yeah, man, rabbit hole.
That's amazing.
Rabbit hole, dude. It doesn't seem to ever end.
Do you, when you're shooting... Because what you're saying resonates with me. I'm also a photographer, and I'm hilariously not technical.
You're a great photographer, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But I could not begin to tell you what f-stop to use and shutter speed and stuff.
F8. Start at F8.
I play along. I play around, and I kind of like figure out how I'm going to get the shot, and a lot of it has become muscle memory.
Okay.
But that was something that I learned.
That's what you want.
Yeah. I learned, I want to say it was during this whole crazy journey that I accepted that it's okay to focus on developing the art, and accept that maybe the math part of it, I shouldn't beat myself up for that. No. You discovered the same thing through your experience by focusing on it as an art project.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, in photography, the eye is the most important thing. Like, it's not, it's, your ISO and your f-stop and your shutter speed are, always connected. It's kind of like Ohm's law, but at the same time, like, your composition means more than anything, When you compose a frame, you're ruling out so much of the world and including only so little. Yeah. It's like, you have to be a good curator.
Yeah. I'm doing I'm taking that same lesson that what you went through and what I went through, and I'm applying it to music to some extent right now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm hoping to figure out how to...
Hip hop?
No, techno.
Nice.
Goddamn Burning Man. No, but I'm hoping to figure out how I can focus on just trusting my ear rather than obsessing about the equipment. So we'll see where that goes.
You know what I would suggest to you is to play with other people.
Yeah.
Because I spent many years wanting to be a musician. I played bass guitar and drums and stuff, and whenever you get 3 or 4 people, that the whole collaborative art thing, it almost forces you to get to that flow state where especially when the audience starts to give back.
Yeah.
It's this emotional it's this almost sexual, spiritual kind of thing that has nothing to do with technology.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what pickups you have,
Yeah.
you know, no matter what turntables you have, like it becomes this, all the gear disappears.
Yeah. No, the sacral chakra, I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. That's sexuality and creativity.
Yeah.
It's the same chakra. Like the things are
I
totally
didn't know
connected.
that actually.
Yeah. They're totally connected. Do you need to
I'm gonna grab it.
I'm pausing because you were grabbing a beer. But no, I always, whenever people are sitting in on podcasts, I encourage them to yell this shit in the background. Because like ultimately I want people to feel like they're sitting in the middle of this conversation.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
You mentioned traveling and China. What's going on?
Oh, well, so I didn't get to go, but in Shenzhen, China, which is known as sort of their Silicon Valley, they had a oh my gosh, I can't even remember who the guy's name was. The I don't know, the premier or whatever it is. He's all, hey, we're gonna have this giant technology festival all across China, and there's a maker space out there, and their name escapes me right now, but they offered to build a new version of Black Rock Observatory in Shenzhen because the design is open source. It's always been, no one has ever chosen to cut another version of it. It's expensive.
Right, yeah.
So however, the intent from the beginning was to have the project be open source, which means that anyone can have it. And so Shenzhen, a Shenzhen, China makerspace was one of the first groups that was like, hey, we'll make one. And so I sent my build lead, Krista Anderson, amazing burner and ranger. I'm forgetting her ranger handle right now. But we originally talked about sending a crew of 8 out there to have it cut and built. And then I guess right at the last minute, they were kind of something like, send us, you know, we've got all the labor over here that we need. Send someone who knows how to do it, and we'll make it happen. And so we sent Krista out there, and you know, it's funny because they couldn't source the materials to do it. We had the fabricator, we had the build lead, we had the designs, but all of the wood that it takes to build Black Rock Observatory is bought by a company in Santa Fe Springs, California, from the company in Finland that manufactures the wood. And so we sent Krista over there, and they couldn't source the wood. So we almost built a clone in China, but they couldn't find the wood, and so Krista ended up giving a couple of talks,
Interesting.
and discussing the engineering and the architecture with people.
Why couldn't they source the wood?
Because it's all bought by. It's my understanding that almost all of the Finland birch in the world is plywood. Is purchased by a company in Orange County.
Yeah.
And that's who we have to buy it from. If we can buy it from them.
Yeah.
So the first dome cost me, I think a total of $6,000.
Yeah.
Because it was $3,000 in wood, something like that, and $3,000 in fabrication.
Wow.
The second dome was $12,000 because we couldn't buy the wood from the wholesaler fast enough, and we had to buy it retail.
Wow.
And the fabricator always charges however much you paid for the material.
Yeah.
So it's like a supply chain thing, and I'm like a fucking hick from Jonesboro, Georgia. I don't know how to deal with this kind of bullshit. Yeah. So
who is figuring this out on the team? Is there like a wood expert on the team?
It's basically, Greg Fleischman is the man. Like, he's really the guy.
So he already kind of has his sources. He just puts in the orders and.
Well, he knows. I put in the orders, but he knows what we need, and so I ask Greg what we need based on the design.
Right.
And then it's my job to get it and have it shipped and whatever.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, but it's all North American Plywood, Santa Fe Springs. That's where to buy the best plywood in the whole world, apparently.
Apparently.
I mean, I'm told it's way better than marine grade plywood. That said, we need to build another dome because it's starting to see some wear.
How many domes? Is 2 of them? 3?
We have 2 wooden domes and then sort of a cluster dome made out of galvanized steel.
Has it been the same design and structure since you guys got out there the first year?
So far, yeah. Yeah, so far. Well, okay, so last year we brought 1 wooden dome and the galvanized steel domes as opposed to 2 wooden domes. It allowed us to get more outreach done, and considering we had to go to the Oregon eclipse gathering, the logistics were way easier because we did Oregon eclipse gathering 1 week,
right,
and then we literally went to Burning Man the following week. And so, we were on the road for a minute, and we had 2 crews, so it was definitely logistics nightmare. But
what was it like at the eclipse?
All I can say is if you ever get a chance, like, even if it takes quite a lot of effort to see a total solar eclipse, then you trying to look at both of you right now.
Yeah.
You must do that. We live in a really cool little niche. Like, if you're on Mars and you see an eclipse of the sun.
Oh, on Earth. Okay, I thought you meant Studio City.
Oh, well, Studio City, we wouldn't have seen it. Yeah. You'd had to have driven north. But so if you were on Mars or Jupiter and you were to see one of the moons move in front of the sun, it wouldn't look anything like an eclipse on the Earth. It would look like a potato being thrown in front of the sun. You know, it's kind of ridiculous. And
why potato?
Oh, well, I say that because Mars's moons are captured asteroids.
Okay.
And they're just kind of, they're not round.
Okay.
They're irregular and they look like potatoes.
Interesting.
That said, Earth's moon appears to be the exact same size in the sky as the sun does. We're the only planet in the solar system, or any of the extrasolar systems that we've ever found, that is like that.
Where the moon is?
The moon appears to be the same angular size in the sky as the sun.
Huh.
And that's a pure coincidence.
Really?
Yes. So when the moon moves in front of the sun, sometimes, so when the moon is at what we call apogee, it's farthest away from the Earth. And so you can have what's called an annular eclipse, which is where the sun appears to be a ring of sunlight, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's close enough when it's close to perigee, which is its closest point to Earth, that it blocks out one atmosphere of the sun called the photosphere. And when that happens, we see the coronosphere, which is sort of those white streamers that you see when you see a photo of a total solar eclipse, there's these huge white streamers that come out, and there's these little orange prominences that you see that you might see in some of those NASA videos or whatever. Anyway, we're on the only planet in the solar system where that happens, and we're in the only time where that happens. The moon is receding at 4 centimeters per year.
Okay.
And so eventually all eclipses will become annular. And we won't be able to see the coronosphere anymore.
Huh.
And so we live in a tiny fraction of people that get to see total solar eclipses. So there's one coming to the United States in just a few years. There's one in Chile, I think, next year. But total solar eclipse is absolutely what made me fall down the rabbit hole in the first place. Like I said, they let me out of school in 4th grade. I was like, oh my God, there's a solar eclipse. Can I get out of school and go record it? And they're like, yeah, as long as you write a report on it, you're good. And I'm like, this is my ticket out of school.
Did they give you the proper glasses to wear when you were looking at the sun, or did you make your own little box?
I made my own camera obscura. And I projected images through a telescope. Yes, and traced them, yes.
Oh, fuck. I really regret not going to Oregon Eclipse now.
Well, no, you got a couple more coming up. Like, there's a couple more Northern American ones coming up. But
buy your tickets now.
But do it, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen these videos of the sort of the orange sun with the granularity, and then there's like a loop coming off. That's a prominence or a solar flare, they call it. And the moment the moon moved right in front of the sun, you could absolutely see one of those things with your naked eye, just like boom. Yeah, and there we were with like 50,000 people. Like, I don't know if everyone was ohming.
Did you so you guys set up like the whole observatory over there?
We set up a couple of white light solar telescopes, which would just show you sort of the crescent and the sunspots. Yeah. And then we set up an H alpha solar telescope, which would show you those prominences and stuff. Yeah. And then, but basically, when totality happens, we direct everyone to stop looking through the telescopes. We had a big giant television screen set up that would show it to you, but it's so beautiful when totality happens. We had 2 minutes and 30-something seconds of totality. You want to take it in with just your eyes. Right. Yeah.
So you guys didn't actually set up like the domes at the eclipse?
We sent one dome to the burn. And then we set up telescopes at the eclipse gathering, because we partnered with this really amazing group based in London and New York called Guerrilla Science. They're a nonprofit organization that basically they do what we do with astronomy, but they don't stop at astronomy. They do chemistry and geology and biology and the whole nine. And so they had this giant circus tent, and so we basically just set up within their structure.
How long is the build time period for the observatory in Black Rock City?
I'd say one dome is in a perfect world, one dome is 1 day.
Okay.
Maybe day and a half.
Yeah.
So if we build 2 domes plus the one cluster dome in galvanized steel, then it ends up being like 5 days total. And then the last day we build this telescopes and start to get them calibrated and everything. Yeah. So it's really to do the 2 wooden domes and the galvanized domes and the telescopes. It's really like a 6-day gig. We try to build in an extra day for contingency, and aligning, collimating the telescope, which is basically just like aligning the optics properly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if it were just one dome, it's a really hard day, but we can do one dome in 1 day.
Yeah. This last year was pretty tough too with the heat.
It was, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I did okay. Yeah, no, I didn't. I was feeling pretty good energy most of the time, but like definitely a lot of people had heat stroke this year.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was a rough year to get through.
Yeah.
I'm curious what now that you've been doing this project now for how many years is it total? 2014, 15, 16, 17.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, our
This
first
will
year
be-
on Ply was 14. I applied in 2012.
Right. And this will be the fourth year.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What huge lessons have you learned that if you could go back in time and tell Tom
goodness.
from 2013, 2014,
Man, that is a great question.
would have made life just more, I don't know, easier?
Okay, so this year we're going to come into the city and try and set up a theme camp. And maybe one of the domes will be on a plaza. We're talking to Burning Man about that right now. Maybe one of the domes will be in Deep Playa. I may have another project out in Deep Playa. I'm not quite sure what's up, but we want to make the telescope like mobile. I'd say the most common criticism I've gotten about Black Rock Observatory over the past 4 years has been I couldn't find you.
Okay.
So I mean, the first year we.
I mean, if I had a nickel for everything I couldn't find in Burning Man.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I really think that we can be more visible. So we're going to build a cart for the telescope. And the telescope isn't going to live inside the dome.
A cart?
Yeah, we're going to just make the telescope totally towable.
Okay.
So I want to take it to Center Camp one night. I want to take it to Deep Playa one night. So
I might come out to the Black Rock Observatory and not be able to observe?
No. We have extra scopes now.
Okay.
Like we have our original telescope is a 20-inch telescope. We have a 14-inch backup. Plus we have an 8-inch. Plus we have a ton of scopes now. So basically, if you show up at the observatory, you'll be able to look through a telescope no matter where you are, whether you're in the city or in Deep Playa.
We've got you covered. Okay.
Yeah. But what I want to do is tow the big scope, the 20-inch with the map on the altitude bearing, with the Black Rock City map on the altitude bearing. I want to put that in Center Camp because there's a lot of people that go to Center Camp every year who never go to Deep Playa. I mean, the first year that I did this project, I had some people in my crew, scientists like at major organizations, be like, I've never been to Deep Playa. Like, I want to go to see your project, but I'm not going to make it if you put it at 12 and 5,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there will be a telescope in Deep Playa for sure. But I want to bring the big scope to walk-in camp, and I want to bring it to Center Camp. Because I mean, here's the thing: at 12 and 5,000, which is like one of the, halfway between the temple and the trash fence on 12 o'clock is the biggest honor I've probably ever had in my whole life.
Yeah.
We're just kind of in line and equidistant. It's like, so they moved us last year. And that's fine because we're starting to slack a little bit, I think. but just the idea that I could bring that scope to more people at Center Camp just really excites me. Plus, when we're at 12 and 5,000, most of the greatest things in the sky are in the south. Mm-hmm. And so we have to look over the city. And so I want to get into walk-in camping
Right.
so that I can look south over no light pollution.
Mm.
Because then I can do deep sky objects like no one's business.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so if I can get to the south end of the city, then, the Andromeda Galaxy, the Ring Nebula, all these things, this will blow your mind, yeah. It's not that I'm just dealing with planets and the moon in deep playa. We can still do those things out there, but over the past 3-4 years, the amount of light pollution in the city is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I love, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love you, Mayan warrior. I love you, Mayan warrior, but oh my God, how many lasers do you have on that thing? I swear. It's like, they're like, fuck Major Tom. What does he want?
More lasers. Yeah, it is. I remember Alpi, who used to be our online editor on this show. She had been going for like a few years now, and she's like, "At what point did Burning Man turn into Blinky Man?" There's lights everywhere. And you know what's funny, by the way? There's another interview that I've been like trying to get for a while. I'm not going to say his name, but he is in no small part responsible for like the development of the modern day LED. So like I really want to like see what that experience must have been like, going out to the burn and watching this thing transform Black Rock City into this completely different
Oh my God.
thing.
You got to get that interview.
I've been trying, trust me.
Have you seen, okay, so real quick, I'm super excited about this.
Please.
I know this is audio, so I'm sorry about
We'll describe it to the listeners. You're
Okay,
pulling up
yeah.
a photo to show me on your phone.
My latest project is a 3D map of the local neighborhood of stars out to 29 light years. And I have a friend who he happens to be an LED genius. And let's see. Yeah, there's a video. I feel bad here.
Should I describe it to the listeners?
Yeah, if you'd like to. So here's what we've got. We've got a cylinder.
It looks like it's a spaceship Endeavour.
So okay, Yuri's Night.
And it's still loading, by the way. It's not even the video's not even playing.
My phone sucks. My phone sucks.
We're making the listeners wait for a video that they can't see. That's loading.
Yeah, I know.
Can't.
Well, no.
There it goes. Okay.
Okay, so at the California Science Center, which is in Los Angeles, where the Space Shuttle Endeavour rests,
It's up.
that went horribly, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No. At least I got to see what the space event looked like.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
The first astronaut, his name was Yuri Gagarin. Mm-hmm. He was a Russian.
Of course.
And so way back in the day, some friends of mine were like, "Oh my God, you've got to meet Loretta Hidalgo Whitesides," and I'm like, okay. She throws this birthday party for the first astronaut called Yuri's Night.
Huh.
Okay. And she calls me one day, and I find out she's basically space astronaut badass. She's an astronaut at Virgin Galactic. And she happens to be married to the CEO of Virgin Galactic. And
Richard Branson?
Oh, no, that's the owner.
Okay.
No, George Whitesides.
Got it.
Who I like maybe more than Richard Branson.
Got it.
But she's really interested in the idea of navigating from solar system to solar system. And she calls me up one day and I'm like, "Oh my God, I've been meaning to call you. Like everyone says I should call you." And she's like, "Everyone says I should call you." And I'm like, she says, "Well, I've got this idea. I saw this thing when I was a kid called Stellarium." And it was basically, it looked like an aquarium, but it was like fiber optic stars in a proper three-dimensional representation of all the stars within so many light years.
Oh, wow.
But she said, "Oh my God! Like, I think when I looked into it, this guy is retired, and they cost like $200,000." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. Let me see what I can figure out." And so I hit up a friend of mine from Montana. His name is Colin Worf, spelled just like Star Trek Worf, by the way. And I'm like, "How much is this going to cost us?" And he's like, $2,000 to $5,000. And so, basically, when Loretta told me that this is what she wanted to do, she wanted to build a 3D map. She wanted to build something that was kind of like the navigation room in Star Trek, right? Like when we're thinking about traveling between the stars. And a year...
Wait, the navigation room or the holodeck?
Not quite the holodeck. There's like sort of like more of the map room. There was some kind of a map area.
Okay, I do remember
So a year previous, I had been having a talk with a friend of mine. His name is Kevin Bond, and we're like, "Hey, what we need to build is something out on the playa, where it's like maybe 100 to 200 yards in diameter, and it's just a cloud of stars, and you can ride your bike amongst them and around them. But then there's a hoop in the middle, and then when you get to the hoop in the middle, you look out, and the stars arrange themselves into the zodiac." Right? So I was thinking of doing the same thing that she wanted, but on a much larger scale. And she called me up and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to build a 3D map of the local neighborhood." And I'm like, "That's a great idea. Why don't you give me the money to make a prototype?" And that's exactly what happened. So the video that we were just showing was, this was the second year Stellarium. Our version of Stellarium was underneath the Endeavor at the California Science Center.
Wow.
So hopefully that's what'll be in Deep Playa.
Oh, wow.
If I can raise the money, we'll see what happens.
Are you trying to do that this year?
Maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. Jeez, man, why you gotta pressure me?
I want to get you on the record.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Tom. You've when you started this thing, it was an art project, and I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to like remember sort of like some of the stuff that we were talking about in our last interview, but I want to say that you still had this sense of I can't believe that people are like. I can't believe people are taking this seriously. Like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe, like, it came together. But, like, now you've evolved into an institution at Burning Man. Like, it's not just, like, one of the art projects anymore.
Oh, shit, Arash. Thank you.
That's a trip. Like, you're now, like, in the fabric of the Burning Man experience.
The 12 and 5,000 thing is something that I will never forget. Like, I just can't comprehend it, you know? I mean, it was a little bit of an emotion to get moved last year, and that's fine. But the community has been, I mean, look, I think this shit is so cool. Like, it shouldn't surprise me at all that people would resonate with it, but just the amount of visitors that we've had and the amount of support that we've had and the amount of volunteers and the amount of work thrown down. Like, again, aside from the birth of my daughter, this is the most important thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life. Like Like, I could die tomorrow and think I maybe pulled something off.
Yeah. It's so interesting to watch like how many factors have like overlapped to make Black Rock Observatory what it is. Like one of the things that kind of sticks out to me is a previous guest on this show was Brian Baker. He was the Episcopal priest whose talks on Burning Man have gone viral. I don't know if you've seen any of those. Yes. So like it's interesting. Like Brian had mentioned, great. He is. He's amazing. And what he had mentioned is that he is serving this purpose for like people who want to like send their grandmother a video and say, see, he's a burner. It's okay. I'm not doing something terrible. Yeah. So he like does that. And I feel like Black Rock Observatory to some extent is one of those things that I see pop up quite often when people are looking for a way to communicate what Burning Man is and can be and some of the stuff that's out there. And people will bring up Black Rock Observatory because it's something that even if you've never been to a burn and you're like all of this scary fire stuff terrifies you, you can look at this and go, okay, I understand this. It's almost like a bridge to connect the madness of Black Rock City to the default world.
Why you gotta hit me right in the feels, dude?
Right in the guts.
Right in the feels. It has been suggested in the past that like we're maybe a benefit to the community in the way that maybe we're not, like, when you think astronomy, you don't think lines of coke. Yeah.
Those lines on the solar eclipse.
Whatever.
Lines on the solar eclipse.
You know, so, I mean, it's been suggested to me in the past that, like, maybe we add a little bit of a sense of stability and like empiricism maybe.
Yeah.
And I'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take that. Not to say that my astronomers aren't crazy as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's been suggested to me that like part of the reason why Burning Man has embraced us is because we counter the idea that it's just some bullshit party in the desert. You know?
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, the three of us, we all know that that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm happy. I'm happy to add to that. Like, if there's any way I can prove to people that collaboration is the way to go, I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, man.
Yeah. That's why we're here.
That means a lot. Like, I somehow when I started this thing, we became this amazing nerd magnet.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be hard on myself or anything, but like I am like the weakest link. Like there are like I am surrounded by some of the greatest scientists in the world.
Yeah.
And that's because they're burners already. And they love astronomy.
Right.
And I just happened to like set the fire, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, man, like I am constantly blown the fuck right away by the people that I find myself amongst.
Mm.
They are some of the smartest people in the world.
I'm
not.
Yeah. Listen, I know. Not you. I'm saying.
Damn!
I do the same thing with this show. It's like
sure.
I've absolutely had situations where I swear to God I've sat across from somebody and they're talking and I'm like, I've gotten really good at smiling and nodding just perfectly enough to make them keep talking until like I'm hoping the listener's figuring this out.
Oh man, fist bump. Yeah. Oh my God.
No, you this is something that we've learned on this journey. You throw a good party and the right people will show up, and you've thrown a good party. And
oh shit! Thank you.
A lot of good people have shown up.
We're gonna keep throwing it.
Yeah.
It's gonna get better too. Like we're gonna. The wood only lasts so long, and so we're tightening up ship here this year. And
how are you guys doing like fundraising for the upgrades and stuff? You have a benefactor.
Right into the mic. No, I'm in deep shit.
Financially?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's pretty bad. We can still keep going, I think, but if I don't have a really good Kickstarter this year, it's gonna be ugly. I'm actually in Hawk to SD cap a little bit. Mm-hmm. That is my confession for the evening.
In Hawk meaning?
Well, they gave us a grant last year, and we tried to build Dome 3 version, Dome 3.
Right.
And it didn't pan out. We built a model, and we ended up spending more money than we thought we would, and so now, hopefully, through crowdfunding, we will. I told myself I wasn't going to say this, but through crowdfunding, hopefully, we'll get back SD cap and do the new dome, because I think all we're really going to need, because Collab is going to hopefully cut it for us, which takes care of like half of the cost of the entire project, because up here in LA, because we don't have a proper makerspace, that's usually half the cost of the project.
Right.
So if I can provide the material, which is probably going to be like $3 or $4K, then we'll be able to bring Dome 3, which will be like new. It'll rotate easier. It'll actually fit the telescope a little better. It's 14 feet in diameter as opposed to 20. Mm-hmm. But that's the plan right now. I mean, basically. And
Collab, for listeners who aren't aware, is the San Diego-based makerspace, burner space.
Yeah, and I gotta say they've been. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no fucking way Black Rock Observatory would have ever happened without San Diego's help. Mm-hmm. I feel like I need to say that.
Yeah, that's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the very first year, like, they reached out to us and threw down, like, it. Oh my God, I love San Diego. So, yeah, in a way. The
design for it is done already. The third dome.
The design. There's like we need the skins. They need like this one little tab drawn, but it shouldn't take long. It's but pretty much it's ready to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moment we get the wood, I'll drive it down to Collab and hopefully they'll cut it for us. Carolyn Cruz is one hell of an architect and is also doing, I think, treasurer work for them.
Yeah.
For SDCAD. And so I'm working with her, and we've got our original Greg Fleischman designs, which were kind of just modified by Krista Anderson, and then Carolyn Cruz is going to finish those out and then expedite the cutting down there. And so, oh my God, our first year we raised 28. Our second year we raised 15, and so hopefully we skipped a year. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this year, if we can raise like 5 or 10, we can at least build this new one. But again, like I'm starting to think about. I personally am starting to think about handing it off and working on the Perspective Project, which is that 3D map of the local neighborhood, and then plus I want to put a very large telescope on a truck, so that all we do is roll in and put down the outriggers and we're done.
Yeah. Is the new project going to be under the umbrella of Black Rock Observatory, or are you going to start a new thing completely?
Well, I'd love your opinion on this because I mean, we went to China and Mexico and Colorado. Like, that's not Black Rock City.
Yeah.
And I mean, in one way, we will always owe our origins to Black Rock City.
Right.
And so I don't mind exporting the culture. Like, I love the idea of that. But I am thinking, like, would we become more universally appealing if we changed our name? So I almost bought a Greyhound bus to put the telescope on. And so we were starting to call it Space Hound for a minute.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going to end up buying the bus. So, but some people are still like, no, I like Space Hound. So I don't know, but I've been looking for a proper name for a like national mobile telescope. I mean, basically, every single national park in America should have a giant telescope.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. And I decided like maybe 2-3 years ago that was my life's goal, was to try and make that happen. And then I realized, holy shit, I'm 40 something. That's not going to happen. So why don't I just build one on a truck, and then I can like take it to all the national parks. And so that's kind of the next goal. My stepbrother builds camera cars for Hollywood. Like, he can fabricate any vehicle. And so I've got the shop to do it. I just need the money. And so the idea is I need the telescope. I'm trying to convince this one company called, I won't get into that, but I'm trying to convince this company to give me a giant telescope. And then we'll marry the two. And then, if we pull up into Black Rock City, we could be anywhere.
Yeah. I think the experience that you're having right now is something that I'm starting to observe happening more and more with the community, is more and more people developing projects and networks and connections, and it, for lack of a better description, leaking out into the default world. It just, like, as you were describing, I was just thinking about, like, for example, Camp Walter, who's been on this show.
Oh my God.
And then, like, they have Walter Productions, which
you
is
had
outside.
Walter on them. Yeah.
Yeah. They were first ones this year.
My God, we had Calliope and Walter. No, we had. They came out one year on it's a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I like just the fact that those cars showed up. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, those guys are here right now, and they basically made our sunrise set.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they have. There's Camp Walter, which is on Playa, and then there's Walter Productions, which is what they do in default. And it seems like there's more and more of these kinds of things happening for more and more of us in the community, because it's little by little. Burning Man is not like that secret thing in the desert that you go to that you don't tell anybody about anymore. Now it's like, now it really is the place where not just the brainstorming is happening, but like the actual creation's happening, and it's making its way out. And I think what you're describing is something a lot of people in the community are navigating as we speak.
I hope so.
And in my opinion, I think that's why it's at the Smithsonian now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean,
Smithsonian.
it is now an institution being recognized to some extent by the U.S. government through the Smithsonian.
Agreed. 100%. Like,
it's a culture. It's an influence.
Yeah, and like, I've always lamented kind of the gap between fine art and Burning Man art, and I think that gap is closing. Like, rapidly. Like I think that's so beautiful because. It was like what you were saying with the regionals. They knew, so 11 was my first year, and it didn't sell out. And then 12 was my second year, and it did sell out. And then so my focus has always been on, because they turned their focus to, oh my God, how do we do this everywhere else? You know, how do we move this into the world? And man, I've been absolutely committed to that from the very beginning. I mean, we've been doing, you know, Lightning in a Bottle and Ignite, and we set up at the LA Natural History Museum, and like, we do our thing as often and as we can, and wherever anyone will let us, you know, and that's becoming more broad day by day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, like people are, I got hit up the other day for a physician attorney mixer.
Okay.
You know, for just to set up a telescope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, that's a pretty stuffy environment to have Burning Man culture in, and dude knows damn well who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's a good thing. I don't want to use the word or the term trickle down, but that's what's happening, man. We are saturating.
Yeah, well, it's God, how do I describe this? It's like whatever the flip side of decommodification is kind of happening, because like there's more and more, again, like more and more people, like, where careers are developing as a result of things that they've done at Burning Man, and these are happening in default. It's an interesting time.
I'm definitely on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
I can't complain about that. Like, I maybe got 2 jobs because of Burning Man. Like 2 real world jobs. Like real world, amazing, once in a lifetime dream jobs.
Are you guys going to throw a party maybe? How about like a fundraiser party?
So we did that the first, the first year.
Yeah.
I like that idea. You want, what, you going to spin?
No, not me, but I'll bring you some DJs though.
Yeah. Oh shit, I'm writing that down. Yeah. Dude. Yeah, man. Like, it's time. Like, we are definitely. Yeah, it's the season now.
Yeah, you guys have enough of a presence. It is the kind of, absolutely. I mean, I just think it's the kind of thing where if we're thinking about bringing our moms to something and saying, hey, here's like a Burning Man thing. Like, if you do some sort of an event, I might bring my mom. Like, come check out this observatory. This is one of the things that's out there.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, like, if you throw like a live event and use that as like the fundraising aspect.
Dude, that is so sweet. Oh, real quick. So my stepmother, this was a cool.
Speaking
okay,
of
this is just a ego stroke.
Please.
Here, but
stroke all you want. You have consent.
my stepmom, who is her name is Jean Varden. She's one of the most important people in my life. She's just incredibly smart and wise. She recently moved to Tahoe, and so she's living in Lake Tahoe, and she ends up brushing elbows with the Burning Man community. And she says something like, hey, Burning Man, hey, my kid is like Black Rock Observatory. And they're like, whoa, Black Rock Observatory. And so I got like that feedback coming back from my stepmom was ridiculous.
You have no idea how many times I've daydreamed about my mom running into some people that know about the podcast. Because she just thinks like this is like this silly little thing that I do on my own with my friends. Like, I'm like,
come on.
I'm like, it's, you know, it's like if your mom sees you on TV, like somebody else has approved of you. Now you've made it. Right.
Yeah. No, it'll happen, dude. Yeah. It'll happen. Trust me.
I wanted to ask you, we're going to be wrapping up soon. Also one of the things we were talking about last time was like having those recordings of Carl Sagan, that you would like explain what that part of the project was. If I'm remembering this correctly.
So, our brush with the Sagan family basically shakes out like this. The second year of Black Rock Observatory, Dr. Stephen Fenton Vance, who is, one of the greatest experts on the subsurface oceans on Europa. He works at JPL.
The subsurface oceans of Europa. Okay.
Yeah. So Europa has a giant underground ocean on it, and we're actually going to melt through the crust and cruise around in there with a submarine.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
It's insane.
Yeah, but Steve Vance decided that Black Rock Observatory was way too hard to find. And so he wanted to build kind of a big sign or it's kind of a big beacon. Well, no, I think he wanted to build the beacon because it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
He wanted to put it in front of Black Rock Observatory so that people could find Black Rock. It was a great idea on its own. It would have stands alone on its own just beautifully. But so on the Voyager spacecraft, Carl Sagan suggested that they put a golden record on the side of the spacecraft so that if aliens ever could find it, they would get an experience of human culture. Right? So his wife, Andrienne, who is an amazing planetary scientist on her own right. It's really not quite right that she's known as Carl Sagan's wife. But she curated all of the information on the golden record. And so literally there was a gold record that was wasn't 78, it was I can't remember, but one of the big LPs. Yeah. And on one side, it was sort of a basic mathematical instruction on how to create a record player, how to find the planet Earth, and a diagram of human anatomy. And on the other side, it was an actual record, which on the front side, it told you how to make a record player. But on the back side, you flip it over and you put the record player on it and it plays like Rachmaninoff and Beethoven and like the sounds of hello in 150 different languages. It's like this amazing sort of love letter to the aliens that may find this from Earth, you know what I mean? And so these two spacecraft, they're not going to encounter a planetary system in probably ever. Yeah. But attached to the side, we put a golden record just in case it was found. It's kind of like, hey, we are human. This is what we sound like. This is what we look like. Here's where we are. And Andrienne, Carl Sagan's wife, I just did it. You just did it. Was the curator of this. Okay, so when we first started Black Rock Observatory, everyone, I got maybe a dozen emails that said something to the effect of, "Oh my God, we have to get Neil deGrasse Tyson out to the plot." And so I did the best I could, and I ended up having two contacts. One was a producer in LA for Cosmos, and one was a guy who just happened to be on our team who used to be on his wrestling team in high school. And so I'm like, okay, you ask him. Yeah. And the first thing I got back was from the wrestling a teammate, and it was something to the effect of, "I'm a family man. It's probably not going to work out." Something like that.
Yeah.
And then from the producer, Cosmos, a little closer to home here in LA, it was kind of like, keep sending photos. This year is not the year. And so I crossed my fingers. And then basically, I started working on Andrienne.
Mm-hmm.
And she said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last year of the Mars rover art card.
Yeah.
And when Red Lightning got word that she might be coming, they were like, oh, we'll hook her up.
Yeah.
And so I called Carl Sagan's wife, and I'm like, no. This is how it happened. I got a call one day, and it was like, I've got Andrienne waiting on the phone for Tom Varden. And I'm like, holy, what the fuck? I was in my kitchen. I'll never forget it. And I got on the phone with her, and I'm like, look, I can pick you up in Ithaca, New York, fly you directly to the playa with a couple of connections, pick you up in the Mars rover art car, take you to Red Lightning, where you will have a Kodiak tent and a bike and like all everything you want.
Yeah.
And then that week, the Cosmos DVD came out.
Huh.
So she had to cancel.
Oh, wow.
But we got Sam Sagan a ticket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's one of his sons. So that's our Sagan.
Yeah.
That's our Black Rock Observatory Sagan experience.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I can't say enough nice things about her. She's like a queen of science and knowledge. Like, she is absolutely, I imagine, probably 100 times more charming than he was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, normally this is the part of the show that I ask what you're working on next, but we already talked about that.
Yeah, sure, man. Mobile telescope.
Yeah.
Space Hound, man.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. Yeah. Otherwise, just trying to get into as much trouble as I can.
Yeah. You. By the way, you look like cooler and younger.
Since
thanks, the last time I saw you.
I appreciate that. Like I said, man.
Like the last time, I kind of felt like you were like the band's manager, and now you're like the lead singer of the band.
Well, I'm in Studio City.
You got like a cooler haircut.
It's like perfect. It's
perfect.
And my girlfriend likes to give me mohawks.
Yeah.
She likes Vikings.
I can dig it. Well, thank you so much, man. Thanks for everything you're doing. Absolutely, as always, brother. Thank you for everything you're contributing to the community and to the
likewise.
Black Rock City.
Likewise, man.
Yeah.
I got so much love for you, Arash. I can't even...
Dude.
I don't get to see you enough.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I'm glad today worked out.
Oh, yeah. Me too, man. Well, are we getting in the hot tub or no?
You are now listening to the sounds of Treavor Moontribe of the Moontribe Collective. This set was recorded at Calliope on Monday night, Burning Man 2017. Walter in Space with Moontribe and Friends was the party. So it looks like it's become kind of a common theme that the DJs are bringing up, because Treavor also mentions that the early in the week vibe that resonates with him, just like it did with Mark Slee on the last episode. You can hear this entire set as well as the rest of that night's sets from Brad Moontribe, Anton Tomas, Armando Kruma over at soundcloud.com/Calliope Stage. That's soundcloud.com/Calliope Stage, one word. Calliope, of course, spelled Kalliope. And you can hear more of Treavor he's the co-founder of the Moontribe Collective, of course, and the legendary Moontribe Gatherings. His personal SoundCloud is over at soundcloud.com/Treavor Moontribe. That's Treavor is spelled TREAVOR Moontribe. I've actually been trying to do a Moontribe episode for a minute now because, funny enough, my roommate is one of the coordinators, but show production. Please give us a like over on Facebook and join the Facebook group and leave us a review on iTunes. All the links are over at burnerpodcast.com. You can connect with me on all these social medias at Mr. Arash. That's MRARASH. Burner Podcast is produced by Rebel Dharma, associate producer Tori Massey, along with network music editor Navjeet Sarna. New shows are released on the first and third Wednesdays of the month, usually. And it is available on all the podcast platforms. I've lost track of how many different places this show pops up. Our opening music is America's Horse with No Name remix, produced by Joman. That is over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. We love you, dear listeners. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Larry Harvey, you are in our thoughts. Take it out, Treavor Moontribe.
doctor said Danny has a problem. You know, it's got to be straightened out. And I mean, you know, I didn't want my people to find out just yet. You know, I wanted to get, you know, rap about it and see what I can do myself.
burnerpodcast.com.